All right. So we're going to be recording the best of investing right now. Away we go. Well, welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Mary Jo LaFay, a specialist in reverse mortgages. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. You're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate. And that certificate is not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. You got to get your tan on because it's coming up to summer here pretty soon. Today's trivia theme is general trivia. Now, Mary Jo, you have a guest on the line. Would you like to introduce our guest, please?
I would, thank you. Today we're going to be interviewing Jamie Hopkins. Jamie is a CFP and RICP and professor of taxation at the American College. He's also just recently authored a book entitled Rewirement, Rewiring the Way You Think About Retirement. And we're going to be asking him some questions about retirement, how to make a better plan, and what retirement holds for the future of all our baby boomers.
Okay. So, Jamie, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Yes, thanks for having me on today. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. And Mary, you want to go ahead and start with questions?
Sure. I've started reviewing your book, Jamie, and I'm kind of wondering how did you get invested into retirement income planning? I keep hearing about the retirement crisis that Americans are facing today, and I'd love to hear more about how you got interested in this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of mentioned the first part, right? The Americans are really facing a challenge here. And so I viewed this as an area that I could have a positive impact on for the country. So, and I know a lot of people think that sounds like a broad statement, but I've actually now, at the American College built a program, the RICP, that has reached about 16,000 financial advisors. So that actually does have a broad impact. If you think every one of them has a couple hundred clients, you actually do have a broad impact. And as you said, we are facing a retirement income type of crisis coming up as we move away from traditional defined benefit plans. And retirees and Americans really have to create their own income in retirement. They've got to replace that paycheck with, secure sources of income to meet their lifestyle goals in retirement. And that's a really big challenge. And that and some of the general literacy research I've done before had really kind of drove why I got into this and actually why I wrote the most recent book.
Yeah, Jamie, I was thinking that, in the old days, you used to go to work for the factory and used to be on a defined benefit plan, and everyone said, you've got security. But suddenly then, I guess it was in the 80s when they started to disband these defined benefit plans and kind of take some of the money. And, you know what I'm talking about with the life expectancy and the rate of return you can earn. And then basically it turned to where you kind of had to look after yourself.
Yeah, that's really been the move. And as you said, kind of 1974, ERISA came in, which this is the Employee Retirement Security Act, and kind of created some new rules around DB plans, our pension plans, and our 401ks. That's kind of the best way to think about it now. And that trend continued from then. DB plans still had a little bit of a run, but then late 80s, early 90s, and especially today, it's really flipped. And now it's, you have to save money in your 401k, then you have to figure out how you can spend it and how you can actually make that money last for your whole lifetime and meet all the goals and all the retirement risks that come up. And that is a lot more burden on the individual than in the past. And that does create new challenges and new opportunities for people too. So it's not all bleak here either. It does create some opportunities, but it is challenging.
It sounds like you've got a lot on your plate to cover all those topics. And you mentioned something called financial literacy. What do you see with financial literacy and retirement income planning? How would you describe that?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research on retirement income literacy and general financial literacy. And what we see actually is financial literacy is very tied actually to better planning. So, the assumption which makes sense to most people is if you're more literate, you better understand something, you can make more informed decisions. Now, in retirement income planning, because it's a new phase of life you've never dealt with before, we actually see that to be even more important in a lot of ways than kind of other aspects of your life. You only get one shot to do your retirement right. And if you mess up, mistakes are very hard to recover from because you can't go back to work. So not understanding how Social Security works, not understanding how Medicare works, not understanding how much you can spend from your 401k each year. Those decisions are in a lot of ways permanent. And so if we don't make smart decisions up front, we then set ourselves on a course for another 30 years, kind of stuck to maybe uninformed decisions early on.
Okay, so Jamie, if you can hold on for a second, we got to cut to our first commercial break here, and I'm going to ask a trivia question. If you know the answer, don't answer it, because when we come back, we have to see if the audience knows, okay? I'm going to ask an easy one, a harder one, and then back to an easier one at the various breaks. Okay, here's the first one. Which baseball player was nicknamed the Bambino? That's our trivia question. Call 888-912-1190. If you're the first caller with the correct answer, you're going to win that free tanning certificate. That's our trivia question. Which baseball player was named the Bambino? And want to make a quick mention here for the Sonoma Orchid Inn. So if you want to relax and enjoy life in Sonoma County and set aside anxieties, less than 5 minutes from an amazing coastal redwood forest, you'll find the Sonoma Orchid Inn. Across the street from the Russian River, in Corbel, Champagne Cellars is right next door. So check them out at sonomaorchidinn.com or call them at 707-869-4466. Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing is going to be right back. All right, so that's our first segment. I tell you, it goes fast. So we may not get through all the questions, and then we can always have you on at another time also. But let me save this file here, and then we'll get started again.
If you need me to be shorter on the answers, I can be shorter.
Just a little tiny bit, because we have a lot of good stuff we want to talk to you about, and we want to make sure that we can get as many questions as we can. Oops, that's so it's interesting. I've got my bachelor's in accounting and master's in tax, so we could probably relate to a few things.
Yeah, I said some master's in taxation also. So where'd you get that?
Golden Gate University.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I got it back in '83, and all my professors were NYU tax lawyers who would come. They wanted the weather better here, so it's kind of fun. It's funny. I was just dealing with some ERISA stuff because we have a fund, a mortgage fund, and the question comes up about IRAs comprising more than 25, the 25% rule.
Yeah, 25%, yeah.
And so the interesting thing is I finally got a hold of somebody who said, we may be okay because we're not RIAs. All we are is, selling a product. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those things that, the Department of Labor probably will let us off the hook. But it's very interesting because IRAs, even though they're not part of ERISA, are considered part of this 25% rule.
Yeah, they're not technically part of ERISA, but they do have a lot of carryover from ERISA legislation. There's pieces that they're not under, pieces they are under.
And if you have any pull, can you try to get rid of UBTI? That's the stupidest rule I've ever heard. Okay.
So I'm gonna combine questions 4 and 5 because I would imagine that your answer there is probably.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead, and I'll just you can pretty much ask all of them. I can just kind of fill in with stuff if you want.
Why don't you answer 6? I mean, ask 6.
Ask 6. Okay.
And
right.
7.
6 and 7. Okay. All right. You guys ready?
Yep. Let's
do this. Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mary Jo LaFay. Mark Hanf and Nam Fon are off today. Our first trivia question was, which baseball player was nicknamed the Bambino? All right, who knows the answer to that one?
Hopefully people in New York.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, go ahead. You can give us the answer now, but Jamie?
Yeah, so Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth, of course it's Babe Ruth.
Baltimore, eventually
that's right.
to New York.
Yeah, in fact, my mom shook his pinky when she was a little baby. All right, so you want to reintroduce our guest?
Sure. We're talking today with Jamie Hopkins. He is a CFP and RICP professor of taxation at the American College. Just recently authored a book entitled Rewirement, Rewiring the Way You Think About Retirement. So, Jamie, I'm wondering if you can give us a little insight on why Americans find it so much more difficult to plan for retirement income stream than to save for retirement.
Yeah, so there there are a couple things that related to that. One of the things is with retirement income planning, you actually get accustomed to saving. You get accustomed to putting money aside, investing, looking for average returns over years. And that's what sets your mind frame. And all of a sudden, you then have to completely flip that. And you have to flip it on its head and spend down assets for many people. And that's just not something you've ever done before. And there's not a lot of good history at looking at your parents or previous generations because they really had a different retirement system in place. So there's not a lot of experience with it, and you don't have a whole lot to relate to as it goes today.
So it's something new for everyone, for sure. What would you say are the biggest risks that people are unaware of when it relates to retirement income planning?
Yeah, for a lot of people, there's I would say, 2 or 3 biggest risks. And so one of them is inflation. We actually don't worry much about inflation from year to year. Your salary tends to adjust for it. So as you're kind of working, it kind of takes care of itself. Another big one is just longevity. What we see is most individuals tend to underestimate how long they will live. And that obviously has an impact for retirement because you need money for a longer period of time.
So that's what people are getting wrong?
Yeah, so that's a big one that people get wrong. In most situations, people underestimate how long we live. So they'll come in and say they expect to live to 80, when in reality, their life expectancy is probably mid-80s to 90s. And there's a lot of different ways you can kind of make a better estimate than what most people think. But in general, people underestimate how long they'll be in retirement.
Okay. And then, I understand that you're very vocal about reverse mortgages and housing wealth. Why is it so important?
Yeah, and actually, housing wealth, reverse mortgages, that's America's largest asset is their home. It's their largest asset moving into retirement. And too often it's just completely ignored or forgotten about, and that needs to change. I have been very vocal and I'm very passionate on all this because I want Americans to have a secure retirement. And in kind of my book, again, Rewirement, it's a way to change the way you think about things. There are a lot of people that haven't thought about reverse mortgages and home equity in the right way for a secure retirement. These products and solutions can be used to improve your situation. There's a tremendous amount of research out there on that now. And it really is something that deserves a second look. If you haven't looked at it, then look at it. But it can improve your situation. And that's really why I'm so vocal on it. It's just not utilized often enough.
Do you have a blog or a website or somewhere where people can access that academic information so they can become more informed in case their advisor isn't?
Yeah, so I do a couple different things online. I'm a professor and I run a research center at the American College. So we have the American College Retirement Income Center, and we do host research there. I do also have a personal consulting business and website and blog, which is just hopkinsretirement.com, HOPKINS retirement.com. That's probably the easiest way to find me, contact me. And I also write for Forbes, so a lot of the consumer-based articles and advisor articles I post up there.
That's great. What would you say are the 3 main strategies, if you had to break it down to 3 main strategies of retirement income planning, and how does housing wealth fit into that categorization?
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have a lot of time to talk about this today, but there are kind of 3 main strategies, as you suggested. There's one that we call a systematic withdrawal approach to retirement planning, which is really drawing from an investment portfolio, your bonds, your stocks, to meet your goals. Another strategy is more of a flooring strategy. That's where we would buy an annuity, we'd buy bonds, CDs, secure income to create a floor of income, so you kind of can't fall below your basic needs in retirement. And then the third strategy we often call a bucket approach. Now, a bucket approach can get a little complicated, but in the simplest form, it's putting aside assets for different years in retirement. So you put aside buckets of money for the first 5 or 10 years, buckets of money for the middle period of retirement, and buckets of money at the end. And obviously, you're going to invest them in different things, but it's a way to conceptualize why you're doing the things you're doing. Now, realistically, as you mentioned, housing wealth can fall into any of those 3 strategies. Reverse mortgages can help support a more sustainable withdrawal rate, actually minimizing kind of your losses in down market cycles by drawing from the home at that time instead. And the bucketing approach can be used either as an upfront bucket or as a kind of, maybe long-term care style bucket. And then the flooring bucket also can be used effectively in 2 ways there. There's a way to, as most people think about reverse mortgages, to generate a kind of steady payment from the house for the rest of your life as long as you live in the house. Or you could actually turn off a traditional mortgage payment, would actually lower than your expenses and allow you to create a smaller income floor to do a flooring strategy. So there are a lot of different ways it could fit into a plan.
So when you say talk about getting rid of a mortgage payment, you're talking about refinancing from a conventional loan into a reverse mortgage loan?
Yes, that's correct, and thanks for kind of clarifying that. And that is actually how the government treats it. You can take a reverse mortgage and actually, refinance a traditional mortgage into one, and that's a very effective strategy for a lot of individuals. It helps with cash flow. That all of a sudden you have less mandated monthly payments that have to go out. Right, so you're still going to have, debt accruing if you're not making payments, but with a reverse mortgage, it gives you the option to make payments when you want. If not, you can kind of manage cash flow maybe a little bit more strategically with that optionality.
Okay, and Jamie, we're gonna have to cut out here really soon. So what's the best piece of advice you can leave for everyone?
Yeah, so the single best piece of advice I can leave with everyone about retirement planning is typically get an advisor or start learning more about it. That either you're going to do it yourself, which means you need to educate yourself, and if you're not willing to do that, you need to get help, because this is a complicated area that has a lot of moving pieces, and it's your life, right? Take care of your retirement and your life, because nobody else is going to do that for you. You're in charge of it.
Jamie, thank you so much. And you've got a book out. Go ahead and tell us the name of the book and how we can get it, and then we're going to have to cut out and say goodbye to you.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, my book is Rewiring the Way You Think About Retirement. It's available on Amazon in kind of a hard copy version, available on Kindle, and I do bulk orders for companies also, but you'd have to reach out to me directly through my website.
All right, Jamie Hopkins, thank you so much for joining us on The Best of Investing.
Thank you, Jamie.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, we're going to cut out here for another commercial break. Trivia question number 2. The design of the package of which cigarette manufacturer reminds us of the Japanese flag? Call 888-912-1190 for the first call with the correct answer. You're going to win that tanning certificate. Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing is going to be right back. Okay. Yeah, we were running out of time, unfortunately, so we had to. Okay, so now we're done with him, and now we can just.
We made it to 8:28?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That was close.
Very close, yeah.
8:27.9.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, fortunately, what I do is I allow a second here and there so we can
tweak it.
Tweak
Tighten
exactly.
It up. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how they can take out the dead spots.
Yes, exactly.
A little half a second here and
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That's exactly what they do. Yeah, someone says, I guess they have to listen the whole time. Or maybe they can tell by the.
Yeah, I bet it's computerized. Yeah. Everything is.
All right. All right, let's concentrate on reverse mortgages. All right, are you ready? Okay. I get this little thing. I gotta try this little guy here. It works. Such a cute little mouse. Squeak, squeak. Little mouse. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Edward Brown here along with Mary Jo LaFay. Second trivia question was, the design of the package of which cigarette manufacturer reminds us of the Japanese flag? What do you think, Mary Jo? If I tell you the answer, you can go, oh yeah.
I try to avoid cigarette
Well, of course,
packaging,
yeah,
so.
but I remember when we were kids, the
Yeah,
candy cigarettes too,
right.
that same packaging.
Oh, did they? Yeah, I
Yeah.
ate a lot of those actually.
I know, I loved those when I was a kid. Lucky Strike.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? The
I
big
do.
red
Right.
spot in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, so now that was very good having Jamie on, professor of taxation. Love that.
That was great. I can't wait to finish his book. I downloaded it and I've been slowly getting through it. It's a very, very interesting. It's fairly easy read, and if you like to take notes and think about things really deeply.
Well, I like that rewirement, not retirement, but
Yeah.
rewirement.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so Mary Jo, we got an email from a listener that is right up your alley because it talks about reverse mortgages. It says, I heard you talk about last month about reverse mortgages. Question is, what if I need to sell my home after obtaining a reverse mortgage?
That's a great question. I had a client recently that I've done 2 reverse mortgage loans for. The first one was to help them stay in their home, and that was in Mill Valley. And the husband had retired And so the mortgage payment was no longer very convenient for them to make since his salary was gone. But the wife didn't want to downsize yet. She wanted to stay local and continue working at her job for another 3 to 4 years. So we paid off their conventional mortgage with a home equity conversion mortgage, and immediately their monthly payment was eliminated. They no longer had to make their monthly mortgage payment. They just continued making their property tax payment, homeowners insurance, paying their maintenance and utilities, and enjoying their home.
And I was going to say that I'll bet just from a psychological standpoint, people love that they don't have to write a check every month for the mortgage.
I think it helps them sleep a lot better at night, and watching their investment portfolio go up instead of down because they're not making such big draws every month is certainly going to be a lot of relief for people. So this couple stayed in their home about 3.5 more years. And of course, during that time, because they live in Marin County, their home went up a few $100,000 in value. And then the wife retired and they decided to downsize. They sold their home and moved to the wine country. And they were able to buy a brand new home in the wine country. And they used a HECM for purchase on that. So that was their second foray into the world of HECMs. And they were able to buy a brand new place. They put about 50% down. The HECM for purchase paid the balance. They never have to make a mortgage payment again. And again, they just continue paying their property tax, homeowners insurance, HOA dues. And then they put about $300,000 additional into their investment portfolio from the sale of.
So that was going to be my question to you is, have you had any situations where a couple, let's say it's a couple, where they say, we want to take out a reverse mortgage because in a lump sum, because we want to invest it somewhere else?
Typically, they don't recommend that people
I wouldn't recommend
pull money
it, but
out of their house to invest. But there are no restrictions on how you use the money. So if let's say you want to buy an investment property or you want to fix up an investment property to get it occupied or get more rent from it, there are no restrictions on how you use the money. And the proceeds are non-taxable. These are loan proceeds.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just trying to think out loud here. If I were, I'm not saying as a financial advisor, one should recommend that. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just kind of wondering, if a financial advisor were talking to a couple and they were thinking about, hey, we have this great opportunity of some kind of investment, be it a rental property or something. The choice between taking out, assuming they could either do a home equity line or a reverse mortgage, I'm still used to calling it a reverse mortgage. The safer thing seems to be the reverse mortgage, because if anything goes wrong, you still have to pay back the home equity line on a monthly basis, whereas a reverse mortgage, you don't.
That's correct.
Okay.
So also the home equity line of credit will eventually turn into a principal and interest payment, and the HECM will never turn into a principal and interest payment. It'll be trigger due when the last remaining borrower moves, sells, or passes away. So as long as one of the borrowers or their non-borrowing eligible spouse is living in the property, there's no repayment required.
Well, and with a home equity line, if you sell the property or the last person dies, I would think their loan would have to get paid back, right?
Right, that's correct. Don't believe there are any assumable loans available today where the heirs can assume the mortgage. I'm not sure about that, but I haven't heard of any.
I haven't, yeah. I mean, you take it subject to, and then they'll probably say, okay, you have so much time to pay us back.
And during that time, the heirs are required to make a monthly payment.
Yeah.
Whereas with the home equity conversion mortgage, otherwise known as a reverse mortgage, even once the heirs inherit it, they're not required to make a monthly payment until it's repaid in full.
Yeah, so how does that work? Okay, so you have husband and wife, they have a reverse mortgage. Husband dies first, a couple of years later, the wife dies.
Right, then the heirs inherit the property.
Okay.
Typically they're children, but sometimes they'll leave it to an organization. Or
let's say the typical situation, they leave it to the kids.
Then the kids have a choice. Do they want to keep the home and just refinance the debt?
Okay.
They can go to their bank and apply for a loan and pay off the HECM loan, and then the home is theirs.
Okay.
There's no prepayment penalty or any other fees, just the money that their parents borrowed plus the interest and mortgage insurance premium that accrued, and the rest of the equity, including all the appreciation from the time their parents lived in the home, belongs to the estate. Okay. And so if they don't want to refinance the home and keep it, or they're not able to qualify for a new loan, then they can just sell the property and pay off the HECM, and the rest goes to the estate.
Okay, so in that case, they'd either have to sell the property or they'd have to refinance out, because again, the kids might be 30 years old, and the reverse mortgage people are not going to say, well, yeah, we're going to let you keep this for another 50 years.
Right. Now, if,
Gotcha.
if there's a situation where the children that inherit the property are in their 60s or 70s, which has happened many
Okay.
times for me, the parents live into their 80s or 90s or even well over 100. My oldest client so far is 106. And so, she could very well have a child in their 80s.
80s, sure.
Yeah. So
And then would that person then try to qualify?
they can
maybe?
qualify. They can apply for their own
Yeah.
reverse mortgage. It could be a HECM or a jumbo reverse mortgage.
Okay. Yeah, because I would think that from the reverse mortgage underwriting standpoint, you want to have an older person in there because they don't want to tie up their money for a long time.
Correct.
Right?
Well, the
Okay.
minimum age is 62, but the older you are, the more money you have access
Makes
to.
sense.
So, if interest rates are low and you're over 62, then you probably qualify either to stay in your existing home or to downsize to a newer one-level home.
All right. Tell you what, we're going to cut to another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about reverse mortgages. What you don't know about reverse mortgages. Okay. Trivia question number 3 is, what does the abbreviation IQ stand for? When someone says, "Hey, what's your IQ?" Right? That's what our trivia question is. Call 888-912-1190. If you're the first caller with the correct answer, you're going to win that tanning certificate, which is worth over $100. You can give it to someone else if you don't want it yourself. What is the abbreviation IQ? What does that stand for? Don't touch that dial. The best of investing is going to be right back.
Where do you get your trivia question?
I just look them up, random trivia.
I was in BNI for a while, and there was a
Oh,
guy
yeah.
in there that he had the best trivia, all like local Marin County,
Oh, that kind of.
Where was this dive bar in 1978?
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't lived in Marin that long.
Since 2010.
Yeah, so okay. But
Yeah,
someone
I
like
was in
me
Half
who's
Moon
lived there
Bay
since
for 8
'62.
years. Yeah.
I could kind of go, I remember that place.
Yeah. No, I was in Seattle, but I'm from
Oh.
Texas.
What part of Texas?
Houston,
Yeah.
the swampland.
Swampland.
Yeah, so we just finished the 3rd segment.
Correct.
We got 2 to go.
Yeah, so this was the 8:10 one. This is the long one coming 9:17. And actually, I want to get in a little something about some deals we've been looking at.
Yeah. Whatever you want
Okay.
to say.
All right. Are we ready?
Mhm.
All right. I make a little mention here also. And let's go. Welcome back to the best of investing. One more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mary Jo LaFay, which has got to be French.
It is French.
What is it
yes.
French? What does it stand for? I mean, or what is it?
Well, I heard that it's a derivative of Lafage, which is the fig. So I think that some ancestors maybe were from a region of France where they farmed a lot of figs.
Okay, well, I got a second. I'm going to ask the regular trivia question, then I'm going to throw one out that see if people know that. What is the abbreviation IQ? What does that stand for?
As far as I know, it's intelligent quotient.
That's it, intelligence quotient. Yep. So it's interesting. We're talking about Lafay, French, and it reminds me. We were visiting my daughter in New Orleans, and we did one of these riverboat tours, and learning about the War of 1812, which a lot of people don't really know about, right? And that's where Andrew Jackson became kind of a hero. Do you know what helped win the war for Andrew Jackson and the United States? Guess which person was like a major character?
I do not know.
The pirate Jean Lafitte.
No,
because he had all the bullets and the arms and the guns that we needed to fight off the British. I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought you were going to say it was the inventor of beignets.
Oh yeah, a Café du Monde. That's right. Oh hey, well, let's make a mention here. Experience the best that Napa Valley has to offer. A perfect combination of wine country serenity and urban hospitality at one of Napa Valley's most luxurious hotels, the River Terrace Inn. The River Terrace Inn features luxurious accommodations, personalized service, and a serene riverfront setting. It is within walking distance to various tasting rooms, shopping, and restaurants, as well as many nightlife options. Check them out at riverterraceinn.com. All right, so Mary Jo LaFay, who is an expert in reverse mortgages, is in our studio yet again. And Mary Jo, some other questions kind of pop up. Like, okay, so first of all, who owns the home?
The homeowner owns the home, and they continue to own the home, and then their heirs inherit the home. So at no time are they signing their house over to the bank. That's one of the biggest misconceptions.
Okay.
People ask me, do I have to sign my house over to the bank? And absolutely not. There's a note and deed of trust, just like with a conventional mortgage or a home equity line of credit. The property secures the debt, and the property remains in the name of the homeowner.
All right. And when is the loan due?
The loan is due when a triggering event occurs. A triggering event could be that the last remaining borrower passes away or moves permanently from the home. Maybe they've moved into assisted living and they don't come home for 12 consecutive months.
Okay.
At that time, the loan would be due. If they choose to turn the home into a rental property and move in with family, then at that time they would need to refinance to a non-owner occupied loan. So if they move, sell, or pass away, the loan is due. Otherwise, they have the right to live in the home for the rest of their life up to age 150. Yeah.
You're talking biblical times on that
That's
one.
right.
Okay.
As long as they continue paying their property charges, and that includes property taxes, homeowners insurance, and HOA dues if they have an HOA.
Okay. And then it's the loan is non-recourse.
Right.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what non-recourse means, but basically it means you have no personal liability to repay the loan. So the house is the security. The person's signing the loan documents, but they're not really securing the loan. The house is securing the loan. So as some people say, when you buy a house in California, it's automatically a non-recourse loan. The money you use to purchase that loan. But when you refinance it, or if you get a second mortgage, those refinances and second mortgages are typically not non-recourse. So that's when you begin to have personal liability. But when you refinance from any loan into a home equity conversion mortgage or a jumbo reverse mortgage, at that time you get the non-recourse feature back.
Okay. And then, it sounds a little bit too good to be true. So why doesn't everyone take advantage of these loans?
Well, I think the biggest reason is just a lack of education, and that's changing. The tide is definitely changing. We have more people retiring than we ever have, about 10 to 11,000 a day. And thank goodness that we have people like Jamie Hopkins and Wade Pfau and a lot of academic researchers and think tanks across the nation are getting together and looking for ways to solve the retirement crisis. And with 70% of the average person's wealth being in their home, they're going to have to look at how they can get that wealth out of their home. And most of the retirement researchers suggest that they look at that early on and incorporate their housing wealth, which is typically everyone's largest asset, into their retirement income planning and make that part of their income stream. It's tax-free and does not have to be repaid as long as they live in the home. So it's a really important part of someone's overall retirement plan.
All right. So Mary Jo LaFay, expert in reverse mortgages. And it's interesting. I've talked to other people who are reverse mortgage people, but you definitely are top of the cream of the crop, as they say. How do people get a hold of you if they have more questions about reverse mortgages?
I'm here in Marin County, but I travel all over the Bay Area to see my clients and to educate advisors and financial and legal professionals. I can be reached at my office number, which is 415-259-4979. And if you'd like to read some of the academic research, you can go to my blog, which is 62, that's the number 6, the number 2, cashflow.com/published. And that has a list of all the articles that I've been involved in publishing, as well as a lot of the academic researchers across the nation that are publishing articles in an effort to help retirees solve for this potential crisis. So again, that is 62cashflow.com/published, or you can call me at 415-259-4979.
Right. Where does a 62 come in? What there's a
you have
reason
to be
for that.
62 to qualify.
Ah, that's the reason.
So,
not code section
yes.
262. Got to be
Right.
62. Oh, that's a good one. All right. So Mark Hanf isn't here today, but I want to give you one of the deals of the week. I don't know if we've mentioned this one before, but so anyway, Mark Hanf is president of Pacific Private Money. They provide short-term private real estate loans. Usually when you try to go to the bank, they'll have the lowest rates, but if for some reason the bank can't fund the loan because of some kind of glitch in the credit report, or a person doesn't qualify for one reason or another, usually income, or the speed is usually the major factor. Pacific Private Money can provide mortgage investments or mortgages very quickly. So in this case, there was an older couple, and for whatever reason, they didn't know about reverse mortgages or didn't think about them. But well, actually, I guess this one wouldn't work because they were downsizing. So they were going to go from a $2 million house to a $1.2 million house down the street. And the $2 million house, they owned free and clear. The problem was that they lived off Social Security and just a little bit of extra investment income. So when they went to the bank says, gee, I'm sorry, even though you got a lot of equity, we can't lend you any money on the new house, and you don't qualify. Well, what are they going to do? They didn't want to wait and sell the house because this new one had come up that they wanted to buy. So they went ahead and got a loan from Pacific Private Money, and they were actually able to borrow the entire $1.2 million for the purchase.
Wow.
Yeah. And now you say, well, oh my gosh, 100% financing. That sounds risky. Mm-hmm. However, they cross-collateralized it so that they were able to have a first mortgage on the $1.2 million property and a first mortgage on the $2 million property. So now they have $3.2 million worth of property for a $1.2 million loan, and that comes up to an LTV, a loan to value of 37.5%. So it's a very conservative, secured loan for them, Pacific Private Money, and it's a deal where they would charge the borrower 9+% with a couple of points. So the investors are yielding pretty close to 8%. Mm-hmm. After you take out the fees, management fees, and all that.
Right.
So where else can you get that conservative an investment earning close to 8%? I don't know. Okay, you can check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com or call them at 415-883-2150 for more information. And don't touch that dial again, because the Best Investing will be right back with some closing comments. And you know what? We have some time. I'm going to tell a joke.
Get your Robin Williams jokes.
That's right, exactly. That's interesting because I've got to make sure that this is on for 55 minutes.
Oh.
So we've got 19 minutes on this.
Oh, no. You want to teach me to waltz?
Yeah, I'll have to teach you to waltz because we are live here. Okay. It's not, what is it, live or memorized? Remember that? Okay, so we do this. And this was segment number 4, right?
Yep.
One time I was doing my sports show and I accidentally lost track.
Oh,
and I did 6 segments instead of 5 because it's the same amount of segments they want. This is interesting. I don't know how I'm going to do this one. This is a cute little mouse.
Yeah.
So I haven't used it except for today trying this, so I'm trying to see if this will. Okay. Like this, and like this.
I'm taking West Coast swing classes right now. Just started. Had my 3rd class Tuesday. I'm finally starting to get the swing of it.
The swing of it, exactly.
It was a slow start.
Okay. What do you want to cover in the last segment?
Let's see. What do I want to cover in the last segment? I don't know. What do you think we should cover? In-home care, maybe?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Paying for care.
Yeah. Now I do want to. Let me mention just a little bit about.
Take all the time.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mary Jo LaFay, a reverse mortgage specialist. By the way, what's the name of your company?
I work for a mortgage bank where corporate offices are located in San Diego, and we have branches all over the country, and we are Retirement Funding Solutions.
Okay. There you go, Retirement Funding Solutions. Yep. Remember that. So before we want to talk a little bit about in-home care, but I also wanted to remind the audience out there. So, if you want to earn at least, 7.5, close to 8%, very well secured real estate mortgages in California, mostly in the Bay Area, Pacific Private Money has a mortgage investment fund. The average loan to value right now is about 56%. So again, it's very conservative. No leverage on that. It's a clean distribution. But here's the catch: you gotta be an accredited investor. So an accredited investor means you have to have a net worth of $1 million exclusive of your home, or you have to make $200,000 a year if you're single, $300,000 if you're a married couple. Now, people say, gosh, I'd love to invest in this kind of stuff, but I just don't have those qualifications. Well, they have a separate website called privatemoneyloans.com where you can actually buy real estate notes that they put on a platform for sale. The interest rate's going to be a little bit lower, probably closer to like 7%, but it's a way for you to actually own a specific note and deed of trust, a mortgage. You basically are the bank. So you can go to privatemoneyloans.com for that one, or just give them a call and just ask any question you want. They're an open book. Pacific Private Money you can go to the website, pacificprivatemoney.com, or you can call them at 415-883-2150 and leave a message. Today it's Saturday, but you can leave a message, they'll call you back. All right, so Mary Jo, let's talk a little bit about in-home care.
Great. So that's a big topic in my world. I've been in this field for 15 years. And one of the questions I get when I do trainings for financial advisors and realtors and so forth is they say, what do people's kids think? What do their adult kids, how do they feel about their parents doing a loan where the debt's rising? Well, luckily in California, typically the equity is rising because home values continue to go up here. And not to say that they will forever, but if we look back at history, they have forever. So
yeah, they've had a dip, but then they came back.
They dip, and the next peak is always higher than the last peak. And so when you have say $1 million home with a $400,000 debt, typically the appreciation on the $1 million value is going to exceed the interest that accrues on the $300,000 or $400,000 loan amount. So in most cases, people have more equity at the end than they have at the beginning in areas with rapid appreciation, which would typically be the East and West Coast. So the important thing to remember, though, is that not everybody's borrowing $300,000 or $400,000 at once. A lot of my clients need money for in-home care, and they're spending, maybe they'll start out needing an extra $2,000 or $3,000 a month for someone to help them come in and bathe and make meals and check on them and make sure they're taking their medications. And so they'll have people come in, 2 or 3 hours, 2 or 3 days a week. And then that might go forward to $5,000 a month. Maybe then one of the spouses has to go into a care facility. So there's another $7,000 a month. And maybe eventually they're spending $10,000 or $15,000 or $22,000 a month for care. And a line of credit can cover that for a long time. And then if they spend all of their home equity conversion line of credit paying for care, and again, these are tax-free funds, so they don't have to draw huge draws from their investment portfolio to cover those expenses. They can take them from their tax-free HECM line of credit. Then if they spend all that money, they may qualify for a jumbo reverse mortgage. And that can give up to 50% of your home value, even if your home value is $8 million.
Wow.
So I have people borrowing, $1.5 million, $3 million, $4 million to pay off really large mortgages on big expensive homes in, high-end parts of the Bay Area, and then they still have money left over for years and years of care.
Very good. Mary Jo LaFay, thank you very much for joining us yet again on The Best of Investing. Thoughts for the day: if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. And don't give up on your dreams. Keep sleeping. I like that one. All right. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long. Good.
Okay.
All right.
For some reason, I'm not good at reading your lips. I'm
Oh.
usually okay at reading lips.
Whenever you see, like if you see me do this, that means we got to cut to a break.
Stop. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When you were
It's
talking to Jamie and you were talking to me, and I was like,
I know. I was trying to go. I'm going to ask
Yeah.
question number 10.
Like, not getting it.
That's right.
And I do kind of read lips. Like
Maybe I need to enunciate a little bit more.
No, I think when you start talking, all I can think of is I'm waiting for a Mork and Mindy joke.
Maybe I'll have to come up with that. Nano, right?
No.
Okay, so I'll have to see. I didn't have time to tell this on the air, so I'll have to tell it on this air. Is this okay? Let me save this file here so we know what it is, because it's a funny joke. I had a lot of people laughing at this one today, and I think you'll enjoy it too. All right, so there's I should kind of move this over a little bit here so that we can. Oh, you know what? I should have done this the whole time. Look at that. You can see both of us.
Oh my gosh.
And this way you don't see my profile here. Okay, so this guy gets the father-in-law says to the new son-in-law, listen, I love my daughter very much, and we're welcoming you into the family, so into the family business. So first of all, I'm going to give you 50% of the business. Now, where I want you to be in the factory and watch all the workers and do work factory working stuff. And the new son-in-law says, I really hate the smell and the noise of working in a factory. So the father-in-law says, well, okay, how about you can work upstairs in the office, and we'll do office paperwork on the company. And he says, well, honestly, I really hate working in an office behind a desk. And he says, well, what am I going to do with you? He goes, simple. He goes, buy me out. I like that. You like that? I like that one. Okay.
That's good. I like that arrangement.
Yeah. And what I also forgot to mention is that I've written a bunch of articles. I got to say this on the air next time, because I've written a bunch of articles that I would love to share with people. One of them recently was why banks do not allow junior liens. Now, there's a lot of reasons for it, but a lot of it has to do with the complications that get involved with their banking with the Federal Reserve and the reserve requirements, and they can't have a bad loan and debt service coverage, all this fancy stuff. So you have to read the article.
You mean by junior lien, you mean a second
mortgage?
How can they not allow that?
Well, that they usually do in the covenant on if they do a first mortgage, they'll usually put in there, we don't allow seconds. Now we're not talking about home mortgages, we're talking about commercial.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Want to make sure I make that clear. It's mostly commercial mortgages we're talking. The interesting thing is that a covenant that is against public policy? Because you potentially are impeding on someone's right to earn income if they were going to use that mortgage, a second mortgage, to improve the property or even use it for something else. So usually banks will kind of turn a blind eye unless there's something going wrong, and then they'll invoke that covenant. But if you just ask them, hey, can I put a second on this building? They'll say no. And one of the other reasons is that if anything goes wrong, the borrower has stripped the equity out. And if he has a second mortgage on that property and now runs into problems, that property then may get foreclosed on by the second. And if you're the bank holding the first, now you've got a troubled asset. So they don't want that. They'd rather say, listen, we want to be a 60% loan to value, first mortgage, no seconds. So now we're the only game in town. So there are some legitimate reasons.
I didn't know a lender could prevent you from obtaining
in their documents, or their million-page documents. It says no subordinate financing allowed. So they usually put that one in. So another article that I wrote had to do with why banks are. Let's see, I'm sorry, this is embarrassing. I've written so many articles here. Basically, how you can buy a house when you already own another house. A lot of times banks won't let you have two houses.
Right.
Okay. But there is a way that is intelligent, if done correctly, where you buy your subject property while you still own your old house.
Right.
And now a lot of people might look at that and say, that's stupid. Why would you want to have two mortgages? Well, in a rising market, again, very similar to what you said, the value of the asset goes up, and yet the loan that you have is, and it's even the interest on it.
Locking in a lower rate.
Yeah, and you don't want to lose that house, and you don't want to move twice. There's a lot of reasons for that. The other thing is just do mortgage investments fit in everyone's portfolio? Well, read the article, and then you'll determine how conservative it is.
And then there's the quiz.
And then there's the quiz, exactly. Yeah. So we have to come up with more jokes next time. And so anybody who's interested in those articles, you can email edward@bestofinvesting.com, and I will make sure that you get it. To just tell me which articles you want, and I'll email them to you, because they've been published in I've gotten published in numerous magazines. So it's been fun. In the old days, I used to write for financial planning magazines, I got paid anywhere from $500 to $1,000 an article.
No kidding.
Can you believe it? Now, you know how much you get paid?
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least you don't have to pay to do it.
Right.
I do know some people who write for Forbes,
Uh-huh.
and you have to pay them.
You
have to pay Forbes, yeah,
to write an article.
To write an article, because they say, hey, we're Forbes, we're going to get you out there.
Right.
In fact, I had an email from some, I think it's just a spam email, but it's like, we'll interview you on Fox TV, blah, blah, blah. And you have to pay like $11,000,
Cool.
because, hey, look at all the exposure.
Yeah.
So years ago, one of the articles that I wrote had to do with equipment leasing and whether or not it made sense to invest in equipment leasing program. And CNN, of all people, of all companies, somehow someone from CNN saw that article and they wanted to do a piece on it. So they called me. I was only 28 years old. I look at the video now and I go, that's what I looked like when I was 28? Now I'm 128. So they called me and they said, hi, this is so-and-so with CNN. We saw your article in this magazine. We wanted to see if you want to be interviewed on CNN. First I was a little bit like, really? Is this really true? And they said, no, that's true. And I said, how much are you going to pay me? Because I was getting paid for the articles, right? And the guy laughed. He says, pay you? He says, you should pay us. He says, do you understand you're going to be on international television?
Yeah.
And I said, okay. You got me. I just thought I'd ask, So I went down, drove to San Francisco, and nice suit and tie and all that stuff, and did the interview. And it was funny because one of my clients was on his honeymoon in Hawaii, and somehow happened to be watching CNN at the time. And he goes, hey,
wow.
I know that guy. So he went ahead and he called me. He goes, was that really you? And I said, okay, at least there was one person watching it.
Yeah.
So we have 4 minutes before we have to cut out on the TV program. Do you want to say anything to the audience who's watching TV?
Well, I do a lot of lunch and learns, and I also do a lot of educational events and often can offer continuing education credit. So if you're a financial or legal professional or a realtor, I'll come to your office and educate your staff. I usually give about a 60 to 90 minute presentation with a question and answer at the end. I'll bring lunch and
stop. I'm there. You said you're serving lunch. I'm there. No, go ahead.
Mr. Pickles.
Mr. Pickles.
Yes, and so I also do lunch and learns at my office here in downtown San Rafael. And then we've started a new thing, which we find people are attracted to. It's called a wine and learn. So I've started doing more webinars because I find people really don't always have time to leave their desk and commute in the middle of the day and get in lunchtime traffic and so forth to come and learn something new. So we'll bring the information to them right to their desk via webinar, typically a 60-minute educational webinar. And then that evening after work, we'll have a wine tasting. And typically downtown San Rafael. And if you don't like wine, we have sparkling water there. And so there's something for everyone and usually some snacks. And it's really worked out great because it gives people an opportunity to learn at their desk while they eat their lunch, not have to leave their office. But then in the evening, they can get together with their peers and discuss what they learned. And so last time we did it at Cabo down on 4th Street. And we had a lot of financial professionals, a few realtors, some attorneys, and they came and they drank wine and they ate. And to my surprise, they actually did discuss the webinar.
So they watched the webinar at their office
at lunchtime.
And then they got together
after work. Yeah,
that is really very interesting.
Yeah, so
we're going to try it because I've helped Pacific Private Money on their. We've done webinars at night, and then they were having get-togethers at their office in Novato. But can you imagine you live in San Mateo, 6 p.m. to go to Novato? Yeah, I don't think so, right? So we sort of took the program on the road, and we did a presentation in San Mateo where we went down there, and someone said, "Oh, it was great! I got to just literally walk the 2 blocks, and here I am."
Yeah, no, it's good to bring the information because people are busy.
Yeah, especially with traffic too.
And the traffic's intense. I have a lot of clients and referral sources on the peninsula, and so I'm often find myself coming back from San Jose or San Mateo at 5 o'clock, and sometimes it's 7 o'clock before I cross the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, that's why I like these later ones where we talk. Gosh darn it, we were there at 6 p.m. and people were interested. They just kept asking good questions, and we didn't get out of there till 9.
Well, which is great. Then it
Yeah.
takes you 45 minutes to get
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Yeah, there wasn't that much traffic on it, because
Right.
otherwise it can be kind of crazy. But so you send out an invitation for a webinar at lunchtime,
Right.
and then
And then we do the wine tasting 5 to 7 that evening.
so you let them know you're gonna have wine,
Yeah.
wine cheese.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
they
really
can
neat
show up
idea.
anytime during 5 to 7. They don't have to be there at 5.
Yeah.
So the last one I did, of course, 5 o'clock comes around and nobody's there, and I thought, oh no, the invitation was too confusing.
Yeah,
2 different things at different times.
How many people showed up?
We probably had, I think we had about 18.
Oh, that's a nice
and
one.
they come and they were probably 12 at a time.
And did you, as you're handing them a glass of wine, say, "Did you watch the webinar? And what comments do you have?"
No, I really didn't. I didn't want to, enforce that they had to talk about it.
Sure.
And I kind of thought, even just getting together and saying hi and reconnecting with
Sure.
people. And I always say the first glass of wine's on me. And of course they like that. And then the food there is great. They do these cheese and fruit and meat plates, and they're just great food.
I haven't been there yet,
Yeah,
but I
it's really
understand
good. And then on
pretty
Thursdays they
good.
have karaoke, so I'll
There you
plan on
go.
seeing you there for karaoke.
Oh yeah. Listen, people love to hear me
yeah.
sing tenor.
Oh,
10 or
yeah.
15 miles from here. No, actually, I've done some singing.
Yeah, and so then people actually started talking about the webinar, and without
Very
even
cool.
bringing it up. It was.
Well,
was
they
really
said,
great.
why are you? Oh, you must have seen that one. Well, what'd you think about it?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was really interesting,
Yeah.
on this question. And then they asked you some questions.
It was a great conversation. It really was.
Very
Yeah.
cool. I'm gonna have to tell the people at Pacific Private Money that's a good way to do it. I wonder how many people can take the time out to do the webinar. I mean, I know I've tried to do some webinars where, I'm at my office, I'm doing stuff, and then, I get busy or have to go to the bathroom, and so I'll miss some stuff.
Well, I always tell everyone in the email to sign up, even if you know you can't come, because then we'll send you the recorded webinar.
Okay.
And you'll get the audio at least. Sometimes you'll get the slides.
Can you send me that email that you sent out? Because I'd really like to see that, like how that invitation.
Yeah, there's
works.
a small fee for that. But,
Oh, of
I'll
course.
bill you
on the best of investing. Thank you very much for watching TV.
Thank you.
All right.